Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Ancient Wisdom for Modern Times virtual retreat. My name is Mylin Tran, and I am the grateful host of this retreat. Joining me today is Debrah Getz, who also shares this vision. Debrah is a medical intuitive, although she is a miracle worker in some aspects, who uses galactic chiropractic, quantum acupuncture, and the miracle working molecule. She has such a loving curiosity to find the root cause of what ails you. Let's welcome Debrah. So happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Mylin. This is a wonderful opportunity for me. I'm very excited to talk about things that will certainly help the audience and humanity.
Well, thank you. Thank you for what you do. So first, I guess let's talk about what is the medical intuitive? What do you do? What does that mean?
Well, years ago, I wanted to know too. So a medical intuitive is somebody who basically has the intuition and ability, which, by the way, we all have intuition and abilities. And mine is to be able to, with a client, feel into their bodies. But I don't do this work alone. I work with many ascended masters and healing masters and the angelic realm. And together, they show me and they'll give me like a little touch, a little pressure inside my body and what's going on with my client. So we can determine what is not only where the pain is, but what's causing it. Or if there's an illness, we'll be able to get a hint of what it might be. So we don't diagnose, but we give information, right?
Okay.
So the bigger picture is, as a medical intuitive, you have the ability to see, know, hear, feel what's going on in someone's body. And then there are some medical intuitives who just get the information, but they don't fix. So I told my guides, I want to be able to fix it too. Don't just show me. Let's fix this together.
Okay.
So I also do that.
All right. Well, I mean, that sounds amazing. And I know there are skeptics out there like, what? Guides? What are you talking about, guides? And what do you mean you can fix it? What do you say to that? And were you skeptical in the beginning?
I was never skeptical.
Wow, that's awesome.
Never skeptical because, my upbringing was in the Christian church, in the Catholic church. Okay. And I used to read ancient texts. And in one of the texts, Jesus said, the things that he did, we shall also do. I told him, okay, that's what I want then. I want to love people like you do. And I want to heal people like you do. So bring it. And I kept asking for that ability. And then in 2014, it finally came. So it was it was quite a few years before it came forth. But for those who might not understand the workings of it all, it's not voodoo. It's not being a psychic by any means. It's a loving, beautiful gift. And if we understand, we've known for decades that everything's energy. So I'm not psychically going into somebody's body. I'm reading the energy of their body. And then when I am told what's going on with the energetic system of the body, because the energy, our cells are the energy of our body. Okay. Yeah. There's a mitochondria within every cell. That is the energy of our body. So that's what I'm reading. And so we just manipulate the energy from dis-ease into ease and health. And by the way, 100% of the time when there's pain, illness, or disease, there's an emotional component to it.
That's right.
So we're able to dig a little bit deeper and get into, what does the body want? Why is that pain there? And we go to that pain much like we would a child and just speak gently and kindly to it and see what it needs and wants, and we give it to it. And oftentimes that's what brings the healing. So it's a psycho-spiritual, biophysical, emotional.
It's all in there. Huh?
Yeah, because they're not separate.
That's right. So I have a couple questions that comes from this. You talked about Christianity and religion, and I know there are those out there, especially following the Old Testament, that have a really hard time with this and can't or won't or have this conflicting emotions about diving into the energy and spiritual work because of their religion.
I did too.
Yeah. Okay.
So I never doubted that it was possible,
Mm-hmm.
but I did, because I was really close to Jesus. I mean, I still am. He's my teacher.
Right. Right.
But when I made that shift, I was still going to church and reading the Bible. I was leading Bible studies, for God's sake. And so when this ability started coming, I thought, am I betraying my background, my upbringing? Am I betraying Jesus? In some way, I felt like it was so contrary to my religious upbringing and what my current beliefs were.
Right.
During sessions, Bible scriptures will come up all the time because there's great wisdom there. So it's not like a break away from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an expansion of it.
Oh,
Jesus told me that his message was much larger than we have taken it to be. His love, he's here talking to me right now. His love is much, I have goosebumps everywhere because
I have goosebumps right now too.
Because his presence is so completely beautiful and soothing and loving. And he's saying that his love is much larger than our interpretation of those words.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to learn from him still.
Yeah. Well, I can feel his love right now. I mean, I'm tearing up because I can feel that energy and what you're saying. And I love the fact that it's an expansion of his teachings. It's not an exclusivity or an exclusion. And that's what I hope that our viewers out there will get and be able to overcome their own fears around this and their own dilemma with this paradigm.
That's right.
So thank you for sharing your story, because that is what makes it so special.
Well, I'm so glad that you can feel that presence, because it's like almost bringing me to tears as well. Yeah. And that's why I love this work, because I get to feel that every day, because he's the master that comes in. To fully a little bit expanding that description of a medical intuitive as well, is I'm the conduit for this information. Right. I don't have a library inside my head. I don't have some special magic. I open myself to be the conduit to the master of love. Because he tells us that in the eyes of the divine, all they see is our innocence and our purity. They continuously say, you've done nothing wrong. You're just a multidimensional being having a human experience, and they know how hard it is, but they're here to help and love us and acknowledge us and understand. And
there's no judgment around that.
Absolutely not. There's no judgment in innocence.
Right. And that I think viewers need to remember, like, we are our harshest critic, and we judge ourselves the most. So just breathe and be okay with where you are and stop judging yourself. Easier said than done, but we can always strive for that, right?
Exactly.
Right. So what you said, you came online in about 2014, where this work came into you and noticing it. What happened? And
I love telling the story.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's back up a few years to my spiritual awakening.
Sure.
Okay. So I started waking up more and more. My heart was changing. My mind was changing about my beliefs. And I think my consciousness was starting to expand. That was back in the late 80s. So in the early 90s, I sought out this ancient Japanese healing modality called Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trained in Reiki in the early 90s. And I'll tell you one little experience that I had with that before we jump to 2014.
Sure.
So I had my master teacher, my Reiki master teacher, and I was fully trained. And then I practiced with her. And then I printed out my little business cards and put it in bookstores, and people would call me and come and have Reiki sessions with me. So the very first session that I ever had with my very first client was this woman. We came into this room, dimmed the lights, played the music, and she was laying on my table, and I was just doing the positions of what Reiki teaches. I was hearing inside of me, I was hearing this push to talk to her about her husband, and it kept getting stronger and stronger. And I said, I felt to myself, I'm not going to talk to her. I don't even know her. This is the first time we met. But that voice got so forceful, it felt like it was going to bust out of my chest. So finally I said to her, okay, are you married? And she said, yes. And by the way, I was also seeing a capital T in my mind's eye. So she said she was married. So I said, well, was your husband's name begin with a T? And she said, no, but 10, 15 years ago, she was married to Tom. And one night they had a big blowout fight. And so Tom left in the car to cool down, go for a drive. He got killed in a car accident. So Tom was coming through me to her, telling her, honey, everything's going to be okay. I love you. I'm in a beautiful place. There's no need for forgiveness. And she's crying and I'm crying. So that was my very, very first experience with receiving information. Right. And they call that being a medium, but I didn't even know what a medium was, for God's sake. I'm a churchgoer, and we don't talk about that there.
Right.
So I continued with Reiki for many years. And I kept asking Jesus, because he said, if you want things, ask, because if you don't ask, you might not
get.
So that was the early 90s, moved forward to 2014. And I was home alone one night reading a book, and I just felt this impulse to pray for a friend who was out of town. Mm-hmm. So I put down my book and I thought, okay, pray for their safe return home. Right. And I was shown during that prayer, I was shown 3 vertebrae in the middle of their back. I just saw it in my mind's eye. And I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. And because the vertebrae were out of alignment and there was a bulging disc.
Right.
So I just thought, okay, if I'm seeing that, I may as well just try to manipulate it and put it back into place. Because what else am I going to do? And all of a sudden, over in the corner, this 10-foot golden angel appears. In my mind's eye, I saw her. And I felt her presence, much like we just felt Jesus's presence.
Right.
And she slowly came over to me and embodied me. Wow. And together we finished fixing my friend's spine, just manipulating it. And today their spine is perfectly healthy.
Wow.
That was my very first experience as a medical intuitive. And that's what we now call galactic chiropractic. It's
wow.
Energetic adjustment of the spine. Muscular skeletal system.
And does that, I mean, this is like miraculous. One session, one time, and it's done. Is it always like that? Can it always be like that? And or does it depend on the person and what they can handle?
It's multifaceted, as you can imagine, but that is a very, very good question, because if someone goes to my website and sees the testimonials, there are many, many testimonials of, one session and that was it.
Right.
Others, if it's it does depend on the person, your ability to be open. It may take multiple times to get down deep into that emotion. Yeah. Some people are afraid to go there, and it's scary to feel those emotions. But with that gentle compassion that comes through, we're able to open them up then. And there's often a very cathartic emotional release
Wow.
because of that. So the answer is yes, it can't be one session. And the answer is maybe it could be multiples.
Okay. So a couple things with that. Let's talk about intuition and the emotions, right? And fear, because I think those are tied together as well.
Sure.
So, I mean, intuition, I would call it my gut feeling or a knowing. But a lot of people may not trust their gut or trust their intuition. How did you trust so easily?
I don't know. I can't say that I'm 100% all the time because we're our own greatest doubters, if you will. During sessions, I never doubt. In my own personal life, that's sometimes a different story. But I love that you're bringing up intuition because it is that gut feeling. It's that inner knowing. Mm-hmm. And author Don Jose Rees calls it silent knowledge.
I like that. Yeah, definitely.
And that's exactly what it's that, just that inner knowing. But Mylin, most of us weren't brought up to trust our gut, to trust our intuition. We're coming out of that age where there's always rules, regulations. We were taught that in school, in our churches, and be a good person, be a good boy, be a good girl.
Right.
So then we're always looking outward for who to be, how to act, what to say, what to do. Always got to be nice. When this might have been telling us something totally different. So many of us are just learning to trust it. And I usually tell people to just start practicing in small ways.
Sure.
If you're driving down the street and you want to turn right and you're nudged to turn left, try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the thought of someone runs through your mind, maybe they'll text you or call you. Yeah. Or maybe say a prayer for them or check in with them. These are not accidental incidences.
Yeah.
The silent knowledge.
That's right. Where you have like a deep urge to do something all of a sudden. And you're just like, where did that come from? Maybe you've never had it before. Yeah. That could be it, right? It's like inspiration strikes you. I mean, that in itself is a form of intuition, right? And people just don't recognize that as an intuition.
Exactly. We all have it. Everybody has that instinct.
Right. Okay. So I know for me, because I was a scientist for many years, that sometimes, that trust and that trusting that intuition comes to play where I'm like, I test it, I'm always like, well, I don't know if I fully believe it. So I'm going to just keep asking and testing and, and lo and behold, if I don't follow my intuition or my gut feeling, I'm just like, I regret it every time. And it slaps me in the face because I'm like, you did it again. You didn't trust.
See? We can all say that. We've all had those experiences.
Right. So, but okay. So then the emotion of fear or just emotions in general, right? Because with this trust, sometimes that mistrust is because of that fear, because of worry about what people think or, expectations of you, things like that. How does that affect our health? And how does the intuition tie into that?
Oh, that's a big.
I know, lots of questions.
Oh, so let's start with that fear. And by the way, the best way, really quick, a really good tip in following what we're sensing or feeling and testing it, working with it, getting used to honoring ourselves in that way is when you're sitting back inside. I call it sitting down inside, when we're really here in our heart and in our gut. Mm-hmm. If something feels light, that means it's right. Mm-hmm. If it feels heavy, then you better stop and think about it a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And determine, okay, am I just afraid of this? Mm-hmm. Is that why it feels heavy? I'm afraid to step forward.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Right. But if it feels light, if it feels exciting, if you get goosebumps, if you feel happy, you know to trust that. And
Right.
so this is the no answer. This is the yes answer, to move forward with something. What fear does with the physical body, though, is our cells are our body is our consciousness in form. I was brought up this way, and I didn't believe that statement to be true. I thought, what do you mean my consciousness lives within my cells and my body? But it does. We're not just this clay body that operates automatically with the, unused parts of our brain. Our lungs breathe by themselves, our heart breathes by itself, and that takes up much of the brain. But our feelings, our emotions are in our body. Right. Our consciousness can't be separate from this, right?
Right.
All right. So now, if we're restricted in fear, what happens? We get tight.
Right.
You feel it in your gut. That gut tightens up.
Yeah.
Then what? You get a stomach ache. You get
right.
butterflies in your stomach.
That's right.
That's proof right there that our bodies are our consciousness in form. So when we're tightened up and restricted, those cells are also going to be that way.
Right.
When they're in a relaxed state and flourishing, they're going to promote health within us. So when we're tightened up, they can't function as they need to be. Cause illness, disease, pain, tightness in your shoulder, back of your neck. Yeah. That's all your fears, your emotions, your stress.
So with this fear and this contraction, how do you move past it? Like maybe it's on a subconscious level and you don't even recognize it, right? Is this what your work does, is to kind of remove that blockage of the subconscious?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there's a method that we use called the Aal Technique.
Oh, okay.
It's Jesus gave it to me years ago. Aal stands for acknowledgement, acceptance, and love. So if someone is having a pain in their body or a deep heartache, go to it, speak to it like you would a child.
Yeah.
I know it's been rough, but I see you. I get it. You're not alone. What you need.
Right.
And then you just accept what it says and just keep loving on it like that. And oftentimes there's just tears that will just start flowing, and you don't even always have to know what exactly happened, because sometimes we'll bring in things for those who believe in past lives. Oftentimes we can bring in something that wasn't healed in a previous lifetime into this lifetime, and it's coming up now to heal. So excuse me, the Aal technique is the perfect compassionate way to do that, help ourselves and heal ourselves.
Right. Oh, wow. So is this where you see a lot of the major health challenges with clients?
Is this where I see major health problems with clients because of their fears?
Yeah, their fears, or what is the major health challenges you see that your clients are experiencing?
Yeah, the one thing for sure came to mind. The fear can also be, or the stress within the body can be grief also.
There's so much grieving.
Fears. And I'll tell you one story, what happened sometime last year. I have a friend whose mother was diagnosed with a tumor in her upper abdomen, upper colon. And she went to the doctor and they told her how large it was. And so they called me right away. And so my friend was there with her mother. And so all of us were kind of talking together over the phone, Zoom. And we went deep into that tumor and we found piles and piles of sorrow and grief.
Oh,
Grief.
oh, yeah.
She had lost a son 10 years prior,
Okay.
and now her husband was dying from dementia.
Oh,
So all of this was sitting in there. And during that, and I can just feel their presence here again in
yeah.
the replaying of it in my mind, and the love that they brought there for her, letting her know. We pretty much did the Aal technique.
Okay.
What you need, it's all okay.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And she was, they went into a much deeper thing, of course, when we found letting her know that, we understood her grief and pain. And the guides told her, after this session, be slow to take action with the doctor. They didn't say don't go to the doctor. They said be slow in having any procedures done.
Sure.
A month later, she opted for surgery. And when they took the tumor out, it was half the size.
Wow. Maybe she didn't even need the surgery if she had
waited longer.
Yeah.
Possibly not. But see how that I'm not doing anything. I'm bringing forth loving messages that just make you feel safe and heard.
Right. Well, I mean, you bring up a good point because, we're told in the spiritual world, right? You are the divine human, that anything is possible, that you have the capacity to heal yourself. And we always doubt because we're like, well, if we have that, then why do we have this problem and this problem and this problem? Well, what have you not dealt with? We still have to take care of our physical body in the physical world, right? Eat right, sleep well, deal with our emotions, right? Get regular love, right? Because maybe they're so lacking.
That's right.
And so, but here is a good example that once she got the love, she was able to kind of heal that, right? So, or some part of it, right? And if given time, maybe that would have gone away.
I know.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, because for all those years, in between her son's death and present day, she was just holding in that grief. And of course we do. It's very complex, our feelings of loss and love.
You had mentioned to me earlier that your new vision for this year is resurrection. Yes. And this kind of ties into what you want to talk about for the year. So let's hear more about what you have to say on that.
Sure. Thank you. So what I'm feeling is that we've had enough.
Yes.
We've had enough of the weightiness, the heaviness, and we've been working on ourselves for years, at least in my in my world. We've been working on healing those emotions and getting healthy, relieving the physicality and the body, mind, spirit connection. And the guides are showing me, and as a collective, I can feel it's like, okay, it's time to release the nagging of the ego. We're being resurrected like the phoenix up out of the ashes from that old heaviness. And we're able now to be able to spread our wings into newness, raised consciousness, into this expansion that Jesus was talking about earlier.
I love it. Yeah.
It's time for that. This is that second coming of that love.
Right.
To the world.
And we're in the age of Aquarius, and the age of Aquarius is all about love. And we're in the month of February, which is the number 2, which is also the month of love, right? And bringing in the divine feminine, which is about nurturing and love as well.
Yes, exactly.
So what better way to honor yourself than to love yourself in this time?
And that loving the self, some people, when they hear that, it's like rubbing against sandpaper. Like, well, how do you do that?
Yeah, some people don't even know how, right? And it could just be, okay, I respect my own voice, or let me do something that I want to do. that's loving yourself, right? It could be that simple. Okay, I'm going to get my cup of latte because I want one.
You just give yourself permission.
Yeah, right. And so, um, I mean, how do you help people through these, such a stress and huge emotional upheaval, especially with COVID and what they're feeling? Because a lot of people are feeling so much feels and they don't know what to do with all these feelings that are coming up for them.
Right. Good question. Yeah. Well, COVID is definitely something that we in our world have never experienced in the last, I don't know, in our lifetimes, right? So it's
Yeah.
very, very difficult. We're feeling the restriction of the global restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we feel like our hands are tied that, well, I want to do this or go there, but they're not going to let me do this. Or if I do, then I have to prove something. And there's all of these restrictions. And it's after 2 years now, it's starting to really weigh on us and
Mm-hmm.
rub us the wrong way. We're feeling, I know many clients who are feeling bored,
Mm-hmm.
very frustrated,
Right.
and it's hard for them to remember what we used to be like pre-COVID,
Right. Right.
because it's just changed so much. But we're not only just feeling our own frustration, we're picking up that of the collective energies as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so the best thing for us to do, pray for everything. Send COVID, when they show us the little molecules of COVID, what they look like,
Yeah.
send love to them. We're not to fear them. If the entire world
Yeah.
would have those pictures of what COVID looks like,
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
all focused sending love to it, that thing would disappear.
Right.
We'd bring an end to the pandemic.
Wow.
Everything's love.
Yeah.
Everything's about love.
Everything's love. And we
And
keep
it's just
coming back to that.
yeah, and it's just sometimes a shift in our consciousness, in our way of thinking. Oh, that's right. Everything's love. I'm love.
Mm-hmm.
We're all one heart,
Yeah.
one mind.
Yeah. Um, I don't know why this keeps coming up, but I know you also do is it quantum acupuncture? And I mean, that's how I got interested in you, is your work, is because you were talking about quantum acupuncture. And I have been diving a bit of that into myself into this quantum world where because of COVID, I couldn't see my patients in person. And so when I was doing telehealth, I would be like, okay, I'm going to insert some needles into you virtually. And I just focus on the point and insert the needles, right? And they would be like, oh, what was that? you know,
They could feel it, right?
yeah, some can feel it, some can, but then at the end they're just like, oh yeah, there was a shift, right? So tell us about that. And I'm just getting like, what is the one point your quantum acupuncture guide would like to put into all of us to kind of help us release something? Because I'm getting that there's a point that he wants to use.
Okay, so are you saying that we can kind of perform a little one right now?
Yeah, I think
Yay,
so.
okay.
That would be great.
So his name is Wang, and he came in the past 2 years during a client session.
Ah,
Again, I see things in my mind's eye. And there was this energy over here of my guides, usually on my left. And out of that energy came this little Chinese man. And he kind of came slowly. And I said, oh, it looks like he wants to do acupuncture. And I asked my client, is it okay if he does energetic acupuncture?
right.
He said, yeah, perfectly fine. So I just watched as he started putting energetic needles into her body. And then I asked him his name, and I just saw it spelled across my third eye. So Wang Su.
Yeah.
And he told me that I carried his energy in the Ming Dynasty. So I've
Wow.
already done this work.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we not only do that, but we do an herbal infusion along with
Mhm.
an elixir to work on a very, very deep cellular level.
Wow.
So he's going to do one right now for fear.
Oh, lovely. Okay, so everybody sit down and breathe and ground yourself
Yeah,
first.
let's do that. Yeah. Just picture much like the ball on New Year's Eve. You see, picture that above your crown, and let's just and this can be any color you want. It can be, mine is a beautiful, pure golden ball of liquid light. Yeah. We're going to just watch as that ball just starts dropping down through our crown, and down into our brains, through the neck, through that central nervous system, through the base of the brain that holds that fight, flight, freeze response. We're just going to pull that back up from the central nervous system a little bit and let that sit in that amygdala, in the base of the brain. You're just going to let it heat up. That piece and part of us that feels scared, doesn't feel safe, stirring up maybe a few old memories, but this beautiful golden liquid light, just going to dissipate it, allowing it to feel safe. Yeah, there we go. There's more joy now. And then we're going to watch as this liquid light, this beautiful ball, goes down the central nervous system, all the way down the spine, all the way down into the base chakra, down into the legs, knees, ankles, and toes. So now the entire body is illuminated, this beautiful light of the divine, allowing it to feel safe for maybe the first time in a long time. Beautiful. So now Wang Su is coming forth, and he's placing, he works a little quickly. So I'm just telling you where I see him putting acupuncture needles, one at the hairline, right in front of the crown, the top of the head, just behind, and then at the occiput in the back of the head, 2 at the base of the skull on either side, just behind those ears and under the earlobe, 2, 3 above the ears, coming down to that chest wall, right at the clavicle, higher heart, and here we go with the relaxing ones, right below the sternum, and then go 2 inches below the navel, right there. There's a lot being mixed up and stirred up right now. Coming down to the knees, behind the knees, and right in the top of the back of those calves. Below the knees, a few inches, and outside of each shin bone. That's a really good one. And then coming down to the ankle bones on the outside of the foot, 3 there. And then coming to the soles of the feet, putting one where the heel meets the arch. One kind of in the middle of the foot. And then in between the webbing between each toe, outside the foot, right beneath the baby toe in the meaty part. Coming up to the forearm, one in each forearm, one between each thumb and forefinger, and then at the base of the palm of the hand on the outside. That's a really good one. Good. Top of the hand. So I'm feeling lots of fear lifting right now. There's such a beautiful relaxation, almost like letting air out of that hot balloon. Yeah, we're just going to wait for that. There's shoulders dropping. A lot of people are just feeling the beauty and the grace and the relaxing energies of this. Let me see if there's anything else that he wants to do. Yeah, he's saying, much like we've heard, fear no more. For if we keep ourselves in fear, then we're not truly expressing ourselves as ourselves. And what does this do to the world? It's like you're the missing puzzle piece in the universe. The universe means one song. We're a piece and part of that one song. Say you might be a violinist or a cello player or a pianist or a tuba player in this big symphony. And if you're not playing your part, we're all going to be out of tune. Beautiful. Wow. There's so much lifting, changing, shifting right now with this beautiful, soft, loving energy that has come through. And they're also letting all of us know how they're putting their hands in prayer position, how they're and bowing, honoring us for making the choice to be in this place on earth at this life during this lifetime, because they know how difficult it is, how difficult it has been. And we knowingly signed up for yet another trip down to earth. And here we are singing the one song. And so there, that encouragement that he's talking about to express yourself, to move out of that fear because you're needed. Who you were created to be is greatly needed. Don't let the symphony get out of tune.
Well, I want to thank Debrah and her guides, and I can't pronounce his name, Wang, something like that. I apologize. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys. That was something.
Yeah, I could feel where I was stuck, and then I could feel it warm up in my belly, and then I got the tingles, and then the allowance of deeper breath, and yeah. I mean, just tingling. I'm
yes, and some people don't, and I'm glad that you brought that up and that you said that and you got to share that with us, that beautiful knowingness and feeling the energy shifting. Some people don't feel things like we do in our bodies.
Exactly.
So what they want you to know is that doesn't mean it doesn't work. Okay.
Exactly. And it could be subtle, and it could take more than just this 5 minutes, 10 minutes that we've done, right? It could take 24, 48 hours, a week for some people, right? Yeah. But it could be very subtle because of where you are in your path.
True. And by the way, speaking of the timeline, they're going to stay in for 3 to 5 hours, and then he's going to just come and take them out.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody should drink a lot of water.
Yes. And there's what we call the spiritual detox that comes with this as well as the physical. So drinking the water, paying attention to what you're feeling, maybe certain emotions will come up more. Maybe you get really fatigued. Just honor those feelings, just as a reminder for any of you who are doing this, and even those who are new and have been doing it, you forget sometimes. So it's always good to hear one more time.
Yes. Not only honor those feelings, but honor what the body wants and needs now. Exactly. It may be very tired, so go rest. It may be very energized because of this. So maybe that's the time to accomplish something.
Right. So, I mean, that was a great demonstration in some of the work that you do. So thank you for that honor. Are there any last thoughts or takeaways? Anything else you would like to offer us?
I think the guides today have really said so much.
Yeah.
When I loved it when they were talking about the universe, the one song. And that's something that we all have to learn. You know, I'm not perfect. I don't have it all together. I'm still working on some of these things too. I can still have fears. That's the human piece of me. That's my ego. Yeah. So we just continue to love it and say, okay, I get it. I know you're scared, but I'm here with you and we're going to do this. And the best way to start that self-expression, to sing that song, to play the violin or the cello, whatever that your life path is to just be gentle with yourself and know that you're innocent and you haven't done anything wrong, because so much of what's going on with our self-degradation sometimes is just old programming. There are people who hurt us.
Right.
But they were hurt. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the ability to hurt.
Right. There's one thing that before we end that came to my mind as we were doing this was maybe to step out of our fear is to bring in what brings us joy, to bring in what brings us love, right? Do what is joyful, do what is loving. And that can help us transmute that fear and put you into another place where, hey, just take one step at a time. No matter where you are, just remember, it's just that one step.
Beautiful.
It's so much easier to take that one step than to take a leap.
It's right, because too often we see the big picture and it's like, well, what's one piece of that big picture?
Right.
I love it that you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Deborah, and to all the guides that were here today. It's been amazing. I mean, whew, my brain is like getting a little dizzy from all the programming that's leaving my head right now.
That's wonderful. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
So you might need to take a nap.
Oh, I'm in the clinic today, but that's okay. I know how to manage. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was an honor, and it was a blessing to bring forth all of these loving messages for all of us today.
Yeah. I mean, you're blowing our mind. And just remember, this is, you know, maybe new to some of you, and that's okay. And if it's too much, just listen to it, and you don't have to be okay with it now. But if it sticks with you, you may be okay with it in the future, right? But we wanted to plant the seed and to have you experience something new. Because if the old paradigm, the old Western way of doing and treating your illness and getting you better isn't working for you, why keep beating a dead horse? Why not try something radical and new and
loving?
Maybe, yeah, and loving, right? It might be what you need. And it doesn't have to be like, I have to do this my whole life. Maybe you just need a little nudge to help you.
Right.
So just keep an open mind and an open heart, and we wish you all well. Thank you so much.